But the regime doesn't have time to drag things out. It needs a breakthrough that, in an accelerated fashion, will turn the population into a kind of North Korean mass, bring it to a North Korean condition. This is actually not difficult. It's simply a matter of skillful dosage, of fear, hope, mercy. No problem at all. There are absolutely no issues or concerns with this whatsoever. By the way, just so you know, here's another very interesting and fascinating story that I would like to share with you. By the way, regarding the decay and the speed of decay of Russia. Back in the days of Holy Rus, in the times of the Orthodox Russian Empire, there was a favorite proverb: even Christ would have stolen if his hands hadn't been nailed. The fact is that theft has always been the true national idea of Russia. And of course, the traditions of large-scale plundering of everything were inherited by the USSR and later by the Russian Federation. And as it suddenly turned out yesterday, 850 billion rubles, which the Kremlin had allocated under a state program for import substitution of prosthetics. 850 billion rubles inexplicably and completely disappeared without a trace and in a mysterious way. Of course, no miracle of import substitution took place. And the state audit, which should have been kept secret but surfaced due to someone's stupidity, directly established that about 55% of prosthetics for soldiers are purchased by Russia from enemy countries. If the situation heats up even more, and it will, then this trade connection will likely be completely cut off, formally annulled, and military comrades will be left waiting, perhaps indefinitely, for essential supplies like plastic arms and wooden legs, which are crucial for their recovery. And by the most minimal, the very lowest estimates, the next year of war should deprive of limbs. There are about 300, 350, or even as many as 400,000 trench orcs. Check out my Telegram channel to see the absolutely hilarious, truly bewildered reaction of a lady from the audit chamber who is genuinely surprised to learn that, yes, indeed, 55% of prosthetics are actually purchased from countries that are considered hostile to Russia, and her bewilderment about this fact. Well, in general, they'll probably manage even without prosthetics because you can always cobble together a cart. But the younger generation doesn't remember, while I remember perfectly well what that is. It really is a little platform on four odd wheels on which a samovar would place his body. These platforms were riveted together on Ligovsky Prospect in a courtyard behind the Sever Cinema. And there was a hilarious sign in the courtyard of the workshop called Tachanki, you know, those Cinderella carriages. And there was always around this place where they made these little carts, you could always find, there were always 10 to 20 legless samovars there, crawling around, sleeping, fighting. It was a whole brotherhood. Watching them, by the way, was extremely fascinating, but the most blissful and weakest ones were sent, for example, to collect cigarette butts, and they had to bring back a capful. The butts would then be shared among all these samovars right there. The headquarters was on Legovka, and from this headquarters, they would divide up their spheres of influence, and from there, they would head out to the train stations, markets, and the few churches that existed at the time. But I remember how they fought in huge crowds, wall against wall, dividing up the profitable spots. And they would beat each other with anything, knives too. They would stab, there was no problem with that. Mostly, though, they beat each other with irons. An iron is a wooden device with a handle, which was set in motion by pushing. By pushing, this cart would move. And it was hilarious that, for example, on November 7th, the day of the October Revolution, all these legless men would spruce themselves up. And they took part in workers' demonstrations, almost as a single column. And I remember there were about 50 legless men rolling down Nevsky Prospect. And do you know what their favorite song was? Their favorite song was Bravely Comrades in Step. Anyone who remembers the tune can easily imagine it for themselves.